My sketches fanned out across the battered table sleeves, flickering with neon threads. Hems stitched into impossible petals. Lapels shaped like wings. I stood at the edge of the studio's harsh fluorescent light, clutching my pencil and notebook so tightly the paper dented under my thumb. 9 of us, all seniors at Parsons, sat side by side along the scuffed linoleum, facing our professors and the visiting critics perched on metal stools. I could see my reflection in the window, hunched, lips tight, hair already frizzing at the roots from the humidity and my nerves. A hush rolled through the room as Professor Klein picked up my top sheet between 2 fingers, peering through his smudged glasses. The others leaned in, craning their necks. I held my breath, waiting for Klein's measured voice to unravel my fate. My heart rose, then stuttered when he snorted. "Hannah, is this a joke?" He lifted his eyes, blinking in mock confusion. The visiting critic, an editor from some glossy magazine, glanced sideways at him, already smiling. I tried to steady my voice. "They're inspired by street murals, the graffiti outside my apartment in Bushwick. Colors that pop against the gray." "Pop?" The editor actually smirked. "Everything's popping. Everything's screaming. It's loud. It's cartoonish. No one would wear that on the street, let alone at a show." "I'll give you this," another critic said. "You're brave." "But brave doesn't equal marketable, or even wearable." A ripple of laughter flickered through my classmates. Jenna next to me twirled her pen, offering a sympathetic sidelong glance, but it felt like pity more than solidarity. My cheeks burned as the questions kept piling in. Why would you ruin good silk with spray paint? Can you even sew this complicated seam? What's the customer then? Someone going to a circus? By the end of the hour, my sketches were shuffled back to me as if they were contagious. I gathered them quickly, shoving them deep into my portfolio. I went to the bathroom and locked myself into a stall. My pulse roared in my ears. My dreams, the vision I carried since childhood, of building something wild and beautiful, felt paper thin, fluttering in the harsh air of that room. For a long minute, I simply sat, fighting the tears, thinking how ridiculous it was to believe in my own ideas. That feeling, the thick, sulky embarrassment, followed me home on the L train. I told my mother nothing specific when she called. I left out the jeering critiques, but she heard the quiet anyway. "You're too sensitive, Hannah," she said. "Fashion is practical. If you want to dream, keep it as a hobby. You should learn to tailor men's suits, maybe work for Macy's." My father said little, but when I drove upstate for Passover, he couldn't help but nudge. "You sure this is what you want? I met a guy who works at the bank. You could get a stable job, good hours." Even my grandmother, with her soft hands and perfumed scarves, shook her head as she fingered my bright sketches. "Why make things so noisy? Everyone wants to look nice. Don't be silly, darling. You're clever. Maybe law or teaching?" They loved me, but their love pressed me toward the predictable. They wanted the Hannah who got straight A's, who kept her head down, who colored flowers on her bedroom wall but erased them when guests came over. The Hannah who never embarrassed anyone. That's how it started. Rejection like oil seeping into cloth. At school, at home. When I interned for designers, no one wanted my bold lines and neon thread. "You're talented," one boss told me, "but don't waste it. Keep it classic. If you want to eat, stay beige." Patience isn't passive. It's a hunger that gnaws daily. It's muting yourself just enough to survive. I played the game. I stitched hems and steamed pleats backstage at third-rate fashion shows. I learned to nod instead of defending my patterns. I sewed for hours in a shared studio so tiny my left arm constantly bumped into someone else's project. I went to industry parties and slipped away early, saving my money and my spirit. But at night, when the city finally went quiet, I opened my sketchbook, letting my hands roam wild. I painted fabric late in my kitchen, mixing pigment with water because I couldn't afford real dye. My neighbor, Maribel, a hairstylist with rainbow bangs and laughter like a kettle, modeled my early disasters in exchange for coffee and fruit. She spun in my living room, wild prints twirling, sneakers on hardwood. For 5 years, that was my world, hidden but growing. I entered little competitions, lost, entered more, placed runner-up sometimes, never won. One winter, as ice gutters gleamed along the Lower East Side, everything nearly broke apart. My apartment flooded. I lost a freelance job. I borrowed money from my parents, swallowing their "I told you so's," and my first taste of true humiliation turned bitter and cold. There were days I watched clouds drift by my ceiling and considered giving in, becoming practical, learning to sew men's suits. But there were other days, fierce, bright days. The ones where I remembered the hum of hope, a stubborn need to show the world something only I could see. The turning point didn't announce itself. It crept up while I was making a jacket from repurposed train upholstery, turning the old NTA blues and oranges into something sculptural. I posted a photo almost as an afterthought on Instagram. Overnight, it spread. Someone from a streetwear blog asked if they could feature the jacket. Then, a producer for a music video DM'd, asking to borrow it for a shoot. The singer, more famous than I realized, wore my jacket in the middle of the video, strutting through these impossible city streets lit up with graffiti, colors exploding exactly like I envisioned. My followers tripled overnight. I sewed nonstop, fulfilling new requests, patching fabric with shaking hands, because I'd never had this much demand before. An upstart boutique wanted to carry my line. The owner, a woman with cropped hair and paint under her nails, liked the messiness. "It's about time someone went nuts with color again," she told me. I put my name on the label for the first time and sent 3 outfits on consignment, then 10 more. It wasn't easy. Most things sold slow. A magazine sent a photographer who barely looked at me. One reviewer dismissed my work as a curiosity. But enough people started to care. The first time I saw a stranger on the subway wearing my patchwork jacket, my heart stuttered and swelled at once. Still, the people close to me, family, old friends from back home, only half believed what was happening. My mother occasionally sent job listings she found online. "Just in case," she'd write. My father never asked to visit. Even when the boutique started selling out, it felt like my world existed in a compartment they refused to open. The invitation for New York Fashion Week looked fake at first. I thought it was a prank. But the email came from the right address. My work had been noticed, and I was invited to present an 8-piece collection on the Saturday night show. That night, I went out on my fire escape. The city thronged below, alive in ways my family's suburban street never was. Sirens, laughter, those strange technical birds that chirp even after midnight. I pressed my forehead to the cool metal and tried to imagine calling home. In the weeks leading up to the show, I was a sleepless, twitchy mess, cutting, pinning, painting, unpicking seams at 3 in the morning. I hired Maribel and 2 of her cousins to help handle fittings and last-minute disasters. I barely ate. The day before, a zipper burst on the key piece, the piece I called wings. I sat on the floor with my knees up, trying not to scream, and Maribel stroked my hair. "You've got this. You've waited," she said softly. "You're here." The morning of the show, I called my mother and told her flat I had 100 things to do. But in the green room before the show, I caught sight of my old professors, Klein included, holding clipboards and sipping cheap wine. They didn't see me. I didn't want them to. Not yet. The world of fashion was vicious and small, and I felt both invisible and, for the first time, utterly alive. The models shimmered around me, painted in stripes I'd concocted months before.